This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. There can be only one LASIK center for Sooner Scoop, and that's Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosovich, George Stoya here from the Soonerscoop.com studios on Campus Quarter, Thursday, April 17th. Welcome back to another Portal Report. Got an exciting one for you today. We just caught up with Jake Maikkula, the Stanford offensive lineman, committed to Oklahoma. The first Portal edition for Oklahoma. Obviously, they have two of them. Jaden Ott coming in. We talked about him in the show yesterday. We'll have some updates on somebody that Oklahoma is actually hosting today down in Norman, as well as some other things. We'll get to that here in a second, though, and tell you about our good friends over at Rhoback, RHOBACK.com. If you want a polo or one of the Looper shorts, the everyday shorts. Oh, you got the polo on today, George.
I do.
All you got to do is use the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off at Rhoback.com. It's that time of the year. I'm hoping those Looper shorts, I think they're supposed to be here today, which would be exciting because I'm hoping to play golf at some point. The weather's not going to cooperate, though, and it's really going to put me in a bad mood.
But you can wear them all summer. That's the beauty.
It's
about to get hot outside.
I know. We were just talking about that. It seems like here over the next month, middle of April into middle of May, you start seeing those temps go up, and they'll be out there. We told Jake more than enough about the Oklahoma weather and how unexpected it can be sometimes. But you did have some news on Wednesday night. Oklahoma and Jim Nagy have added to the front office and a familiar name to, I think, those that follow the OK Prep scene.
Yeah, Cale Pearson is going to be their director of high school scouting, not recruiting, high school scouting, which is an interesting position. I don't think Oklahoma's really had that before. He's going to work under Jim Nagy as kind of their lead guy in terms of identifying talent, evaluating talent at the high school level. And it sounds like he's been working now for Oklahoma for the last week or so. Previously at Air Force, as he had a bunch of titles at Air Force for the last 4 years, but he was their general manager, director of recruiting, NFL liaison, and he was a star football player for him back in, I think, was it 2011 to 2014?
Yes.
And he's from Tulsa Union High School.
Yep.
He was
won
star
3 state titles for Union. His dad's a coach as well in the OK Preps ranks.
His dad, Preston, is now the head coach at Skytook outside of Tulsa. So very well known in the state of Oklahoma in terms of high school football. So on paper, again, a really good hire. I like this guy. I know Josh knows him, I think, from his back in his playing days because he was a heck of a player.
I was giving Josh hell last night. The first thing that Cale should ask Josh is, where was I ranked in the Sooner State rankings?
Yeah.
And that's going to be dependent upon our relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Because he was a star for Union. Yeah, I think he won 3 state titles.
I remember watching those Union teams with him and his brother up there. And I think it was right at the beginning of Coach Frederick's reign in at Union and for the public schools up there. But they were phenomenal. Obviously, growing up on the west side of the state, you always looked at the Union schools. And his dad, Preston, actually came down and was the head coach over at Putnam City High School back in, I want to say, like 2011, 2012, right around when Cale had graduated from Union.
Yeah. I think that he has great credentials. Young guy. I think he's only 33 years old. And is somebody, again, that knows the state well, understands the process of recruiting and all of that. And, he worked in the U.S. Air Force, obviously, for a few years after college, but also was an assistant coach, I believe, for a few years for Air Force. So good hire. I think also, I will say, Jim Nagy, it does sound like he's going to announce some more hires here soon. I don't know how many more, what their titles will be, but stay tuned to that because I do think that there's a couple more hires coming Oklahoma's way.
I know in your story that you kind of outlined everything that he had been at Air Force, but when you're a flight commander for the 49th Logistics Readiness Squadron, that just sounds badass.
Oh, and it sounds awesome.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds awesome.
Yeah, so
I'll have to ask him.
I know. Maybe we can get him in studio or chat with him. I bet he's out at the Brent Venables case this summer, so I'm sure we'll get to meet him then. But awesome dude, it seems like.
More than anything, though, it's just kind of another level of what Jim Nagy's trying to put together in terms of a front office in Norman. And you put it in the story, and it might just be kind of obvious, but he is going to be a part of the front office for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how big that gets, because it seems like there's several more hires coming. I know they're obviously retaining somebody like a Drew Hill, who's been a part of this program for almost a decade now or more, right? So, that doesn't change his job or what he's doing. I think that they're just adding and really building this thing, like we said, kind of like an NFL front office. Is it going to be, 30, 40 people deep? Probably not, but I do think that it's going to be much larger than what we've seen at Oklahoma in recent years.
All right, so Oklahoma has 2 in as of today. Obviously, that's going to change here in the coming days or coming weeks with the spring portal officially open. We talked about Jaden Ott quite in depth yesterday. We did talk to Jake Maikkula. Really good guy. I think the first thing that's going to pop off the page or the screen at you is that's a Stanford guy. He's obviously a lot smarter than us, and I think that's probably goes without saying. The bar set extremely low, but just in terms of like where you see him, it does seem like this is more than just bringing a guy in to build depth.
Definitely. OU and Jim Nagy, I know, feel like this is somebody that really elevates that offensive line group and can compete for a starting job. And, we talked about it with Jake, where he sees himself playing. It sounds like Oklahoma said, hey, just get to campus and we'll find a spot for you. And that tells me that he's going to come in and really compete for, I think, probably the starting center job with Troy Everett. I could also see him playing some guard. That's where he started his career at Stanford, but last year played extremely well at center and made 7 starts there for Stanford. So I think this is a guy, like you said, very smart, big guy. I think he's listed at 6'5", 295 pounds. Yeah. He's probably closer to over 300 pounds now. He said he gets here this summer, so we'll see. I think that he's definitely a name to know, though, going into fall camp, because I think Oklahoma expects him to come in and contribute.
All right, without further ado, here is our conversation with new Oklahoma offensive lineman, Jake Maikkula. Now joining us is Oklahoma's first spring portal commitment, Jake Maikula out of Stanford, joining Oklahoma football program. Jake, thanks for joining us. I know that this is probably a hectic time. Where are you guys at in schedule-wise out at Stanford right now?
Yeah, so we're on week 3 of the quarter. Okay. We're quarter system school, so it takes a little longer to wrap up.
It's different, definitely different than the 2-semester thing that we're used to down here at Oklahoma. When you enter the transfer portal, obviously there's a ton of interest. Oklahoma was your first visit, if I believe that's correct. Just in terms of like interest, what brought you to Oklahoma? What did you know about Oklahoma growing up in Colorado? Was there any connections to Norman before you made the decision?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously it's an incredible football program. I hear a lot of great things about it. My good buddy Luke Baklanko transferred there in the winter, and just kind of communicating with him. He said he's loved it, loved being out there, so it was great to talk to him. And then I played high school football with Gavin and Gabe Sawchuk, so know those guys as well.
Jake, who were some of the first people to reach out to you? Obviously, Bill Beatenbow, the offensive line coach here, is very well known. What was it like getting to meet him, as well as Brent Venables and Jim Nagy, the GM? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible to meet all of them. Very respected people within the profession, and all great individuals. So it was really cool to get out to Norman and meet all of them. And had also heard great things about those guys from Walter Rouse. He played his last season there and loved it. So I got on the phone with him, got to talk to him about his experience, and nothing but great things that he had to say.
What, from our side of things and reporting and kind of getting to know Jim Nagy and how he's going to run the front office, it seems like he has a clear vision of what he wants within the program. Obviously, Brent has a clear vision of what he wants to elevate this program to in the SEC. What was it about what they were telling you in just terms of what were they selling you on and this idea of joining an Oklahoma program and the opportunity that's there on the offensive line?
Mm-hmm, definitely. I mean, I think there's just a lot of great things going for Oklahoma in terms of the passion of the fan base, getting a lot of great guys, a lot of talented guys in the locker room. So looking forward to seeing that, play out on the field this upcoming season.
When we were talking to Walter Rouse a couple years ago, he was by far one of the best media interviews, somebody that could really sell you on the program, I'm sure. What did he tell you about Coach Beatenbow and just in general playing offensive line at Oklahoma?
Push me to my maximum, help me reach my potential. And that's really what I'm looking forward to.
Jake, I know that you played multiple positions at Stanford. How comfortable are you at playing both center and guard? And did OU give you any sort of indication, hey, this is where we want you to be? Or is it kind of one of those things, hey, we'll see where you fit in when you get here?
Yeah, kind of we'll see when you get there. I mean, kind of played most of last season at center, but before that, I was starting the year out at left guard, and then the year before that, I played some right guard as well. Feel comfortable at all three, so yeah, wherever they need me, is where I want to be.
It's kind of unique. I can't imagine, and it might change with the transfer portal nowadays, but this would be technically, I guess, your third conference, playing in the Pac-12 and then the ACC and the SEC. How much of a allure of just playing in the SEC in general was it in Oklahoma's pitch to ultimately sign with Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, playing in the SEC is huge. I mean, you grew up watching college football, it's the SEC. I mean, that's the best conference. There's no way getting around that. So really excited for that opportunity.
Jake, OU's had a long history of offensive linemen, getting to the NFL. Creed Humphrey, obviously a guy that, interior guy, played center. How much do you know about the history of that, and how much did that play a factor into coming here and knowing how many guys that someone like Bill Bedenbaugh has put into the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a huge factor, seeing all the guys that he's helped develop, where they are now, that's huge. That opportunity is something you can't pass up.
Did you were you able to meet John Mateer when you were in town making the visit, and just kind of in general with some of the players, the current players on the team that will be your teammates now? How much interaction were you able to have with those guys?
Yeah, so I did get to meet John. He's a great guy. He messaged me right away after I committed, so appreciated that from him. Seems like a great leader, so excited to play with him.
Were there any other players, Jake, that you met while you were on your visit, or anybody that stood out or maybe recruited you a little bit too?
Yes, I mean, met quite a few of the O-line guys. Went to dinner with Bachlanko, and then I got to catch up with Gavin and Gabe, so it was great to see those guys as well.
How good were those Valor Christian teams with you and Gabe and Gavin?
Pretty good. We lost state both my junior and senior year. Cherry Creek got us both times, but I mean, blocking for those guys made it a lot easier.
What did? How much were you able to talk to Ben Arbuckle? And just in terms of he's installing a new offense, it's been new to a lot of people around here. Just in terms of what he's trying to do from an offensive perspective, it's been really kind of impressive to watch him work with some of those guys at practice.
No, definitely. I really like his system, kind of the philosophy he has, and excited to see how I fit into that and can help contribute.
Jake, obviously, I know that academics are a big thing out there at Stanford.
There's nothing close to what Stanford is offering in Norman, Oklahoma. I can guarantee you that.
But I got to ask you about that. I mean, what are you studying, and what are you hoping to do maybe after your football career?
Yeah, so for my undergrad, I get my degree in June, and that'll be in political science, minor in history. We don't have an undergrad business major here, so kind of had to go, a little outside the box, but enjoyed poli-sci, and then I'm planning on getting my MBA at Oklahoma, and then kind of using that to get into the, more of the business realm is kind of my plan professionally.
Yeah, OU has a good MBA. I know that. A lot of my buddies are.
I never got that far. I can tell you that. They didn't even let me take math classes at Oklahoma. I had to drive up the road. Speak Spanish, right? Is that correct?
That might have gotten a little over-exaggerated. Okay. I did, get through the language requirement at Stanford in high school. I got a little certificate that said, technically speaking, I am, but, you throw me in a situation, I can probably figure it out. Sure. But, you throw me in with a true native speaker, I'm maybe going to struggle a little bit.
I had Spanish class my freshman year at OU, and it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Did not go to too many of the Friday classes. I got a D in the class. Just in terms of, we were looking through your bio earlier. Tell me about these baseball collections. 500 baseballs autographed, major leagues?
Yeah.
That's
so my
insane.
brother's not really for that. I mean, just sitting in my room, like right over here. I mean, got some Willie Mays autographs.
No kidding.
Got like Barry Bonds. Got a Tom Brady that I just picked up. So yeah, really into the kind of sports memorabilia collecting is a huge passion of mine.
That's awesome.
What's the best one you have, or the most prized possession?
Man, it's probably got to be that Tom Brady. I mean, I was really excited to get that one. That was kind of one on my list for a long time. So that was really cool to pick up.
Now, did growing up or going to high school in Colorado, Rockies fan? I know they're kind of down right now. We'll just put it lightly, but. What Major League Baseball team do you follow a team? Do you go to, or do you go out and you seek out these like souvenir symposiums? I don't even know what they're called. That you go buy or do you just go get a player and hey, sign the baseball?
Yeah, so when I was younger, it was all the in-person autographs, getting those. And
so awesome.
Now that I'm older, not as into that. We'll just kind of buy stuff. Collect. I love going to the stores. In different towns and whatnot. I think that's just a really fun experience. But yeah, no, it's definitely a fun thing to do. In terms of being a fan, I mean, so I grew up more in San Diego,
Okay.
and so Padres fans
Yeah.
growing up, we had Padres season tickets, so that was always really cool to go to those games. Beautiful stadium.
Petco's awesome. It's a good time to be a Padres fan, too.
Yeah, they're good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Jake, it also says on here you live on a ranch with 15 rescue animals. Could you tell us a little bit about that? What's that like?
Yeah, no. So we live out in the country a little bit in Colorado, and so we've kind of downsized a little bit. But when I was younger, we had horses, donkeys, goats, sheep, dogs, cats. I think now we're just down to the dogs, cats, one sheep, and two goats.
Well, if Boomer and Sooner get out of control with they carry the schooner on
Yeah.
game days, you'll have to step in there. Just
Oh, yeah.
overall, what's kind of the rest of the schedule here moving forward for you going into the, obviously wrap it up at Stanford and then into the summer? When are you expected to, I guess, quote unquote, report to Norman?
Yeah, so I think Stanford's graduation, our commencement ceremony is June 15th. So I'll have class and finals up until then, and then yeah, looking to get right out there right after that.
Have they told you the legends or the horrors of working out with Jerry Schmidt during the summer in Norman?
Baklenko told me, it's going to be a grind, so looking forward to that.
What is just in terms of talking about Luke? You played with him for a year at Stanford. What kind of player is he? I think we're all kind of still getting to know some of these guys that came in at the beginning of the semester.
Yeah, no, he's great. I mean, he's a really good buddy of mine. So, he's in the grade below me. We were both on scout team actually going into the week that we got our first start. So, kind of complete 180 for us. Guy that just works really hard, talented player, smart guy. So, yeah, really excited to, be playing with him again. He's kind of guy that, made it out the trenches a little bit with, in terms of getting into the starting role and, staying there. So, great guy, really good buddy of mine. So, yeah, excited to be playing with him again.
Jake, last question for me. Just what should OU fans and this fan base know about you if they aren't familiar with your game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm looking forward to coming in there, really helping contribute to this team, trying to earn a starting spot, really contribute to the team's success.
Jake, when you get down to Norman, we'll have you by the office. You can sign a baseball. We'll put it up behind us. You can make our wall of fame here. But we really appreciate it. Good luck at the rest of the semester or the rest of the quarter out at Stanford and Palo Alto. And the weather, a little bit different in Norman, Oklahoma than Palo Alto. But we look forward to you coming, and congratulations.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
You bet, man.
Thanks, Jake.
Man, that guy. He's just so much smarter than us. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just because he goes to Stanford, but certainly a big get for Oklahoma and Jim Nagy to kind of get that ball rolling. Obviously, Jaden Ott was a big get, but thank you to Jake Maikkula for joining us. Did I get it right that time?
I think so.
God bless me. All right, let's get into a little bit of the portal stuff. There's 5 guys that are currently on the way out of Norman. Devon Mitchell, that was a known. Samuel Franklin, Peter Shue, Michael Patterson McDonald. The one that we didn't hit on yesterday happened on Wednesday evening. Jocelyn Malaska enters the transfer portal. He was for the most part, he was a walk-on that had joined the program from Utah after starting his career with Kyle Whittingham. Oklahoma does have a visitor on campus today, and somebody that, I think that when we brought him up yesterday and we're talking about the kicking position, Mason Shipley from Texas State. We thought maybe Texas was going to have the upper hand, but for him to be on campus on Thursday that you had reported on the Crimson Corner, good time to join SoonerScoop.com during the madness of the transfer portal for, as George said, just $1. I don't know. Maybe is that a sign?
I think it's a great sign. We'll see how it plays out. It's my understanding Texas still really wants Mason Shipley. I don't know if he's visited yet. He's from a suburb right outside of Austin, so he might have already made that visit. He entered the transfer portal about a week ago, and he's a grad transfer as well, so he could, sign whenever he wants. But he's certainly somebody OU really wants. He's a priority. The position is a priority. We've talked about that. Oklahoma feels like, coming out of the spring, kicker is an issue right now. They feel like they need to bring somebody in to not only compete, but probably start. And that's why I would say maybe OU has the upper hand in this, because you look at Texas's situation. They have Burt Auburn, who's one of the career leaders in points at Texas, has done a really good job. I know he was a little shaky down the stretch of last season, and that's why
Much
Texas,
to the pleasure of Oklahoma fans, I'm sure.
right? Because I think he missed some big kicks against Arizona State in that game in overtime. But I think that Texas wants to bring him in to compete with Burt Auburn, and at the other side, I think Oklahoma's saying, we want to bring Mason Shipley in to be the starting kicker. So I don't even know how much of a competition it would be if they brought in Mason Shipley. You have the stats, but he was really good at Texas State.
He's been incredible. 31 to 35 over the past 3 seasons. A first-team All-Sun Belt selection in 2023. Also a semifinalist for the Lou Groza Award, which goes to the nation's best kicker. Had a career long of 60. Made a 60-yarder this past year. So, yeah, I mean, he is a guy that he would come in and be able to probably take over or win that starting position at the kicker spot. And as you said, that is interesting that Bert Auburn's coming back to Texas. And they're still trying to bring a guy in. Does that help Oklahoma's, pitch or, whatever they're offering just in terms of a starting position? So good news that he's on campus today, though, with Doug Deacon.
And I would say that Oklahoma's goal is to not let him leave campus today.
Interesting.
Without maybe committing at least or something and not going on any other visits. We'll see if that happens. I'm sure that there's other schools wanting to get involved. Like I said, Texas certainly, and I think Texas probably will throw some money at him. I think Oklahoma's going to throw some money at him. So we'll see. If you told me that we knew this evening or tomorrow or by the end of the week, I would believe you that could happen.
Interesting. It kind of seems like maybe it's more in the basketball side of the portal, but you're starting to see, and kind of like we talked about with Jake, a lot of guys are starting to go to one spot, commit, sign, and they're done with it. Don't have to take multiple visits.
Right. And I think that's just kind of the mentality, because it gets kind of crazy, right? You get a lot of money thrown at you. You get a lot of different pitches thrown at you, and it's one of those situations where if you feel like the fit's right, then the fit's right.
I would make sure that I go to Phoenix, Arizona, see Arizona State, Greenville, North Carolina to see East Carolina. I'd go to all the party schools. But that's probably why I'm not a college athlete. There are some other guys, though, on the flip side of that coin that are going to go take some visits. And we talked about Xavier Lloyd, the wide receiver out of Illinois State on Wednesday. What's kind of the update there?
I think I wouldn't say OU's out on Lloyd, but I think that they're kind of saying, I don't know if we want to get into a bidding war over this guy.
Sure.
And I think they like Xavier Lloyd from a perspective of he's got good measurables, was very productive last year at Illinois State. But is he a guy that you want to spend a ton of money for? And he's going on a visit to West Virginia this weekend. He's going to Arkansas next week. I think there's several other schools getting involved, Missouri, Wisconsin. I just think Oklahoma says, is he really worth this, amount of money that maybe he's possibly asking for? And I think the answer is no. That's not to say they won't, if he circles back and says, hey, I'm still really interested in Oklahoma, let's try and make something work. I think Oklahoma would be open to that. But I think OU also says there's a lot of wide receivers in the market right now that we could go get for maybe a cheaper price and not get into a bidding war with. Oklahoma felt good about their chances a day ago. Now I would say Oklahoma says, we might just move in a different direction. We'll see.
It's interesting because I think the Fran Brown comments, the Syracuse head coach, we talked about it a little bit on the Unofficial 40 this week, just in terms of wide receiver is a really interesting position in the portal. There's a lot of hands out and a lot of people that are asking for a big amount of money.
And there's just a lot of receivers to go around. And so schools are saying, hey, the Syracuse wide receiver allegedly asking for, $2 million. Syracuse is like, we can go get a guy that's maybe not as talented for a heck of a lot cheaper.
Sure.
And they still be very productive. And so that's why I think Oklahoma's taking the approach of they like their room. They think that Deion Burks is going to be a star. They love Elijah Thomas, Giovanni Gibson, if he can be healthy by the start of the season. They like that room. They'd like to add some depth there, just in case of injuries and things like that. But they're not going to go out and spend just a ton of money, and especially some of the numbers that are being thrown around. Oklahoma just doesn't see value in that.
At the end of the day, we still expect them. They're going to continue to be active.
Definitely.
At wide receiver specifically.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things that it could take some time. Like I think they might wait toward the end of the portal cycle, just because some of these receivers are going to go, I'm not going to get the type of money that I want. And maybe then they come crawling back to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's like, hey, we'll give you, a nice chunk of money, maybe not what you wanted, but you can come here and compete to play.
As a kind of a final opinion here on the program, and thanks to Jake Maikkula for joining us. I swear to God, I'm going to get it at some point. Have you been a little surprised just in terms of maybe the Oklahoma numbers, just 5 so far, and even nationally, it seems like it's been a pretty quiet spring portal, even though the numbers are massive.
Yeah, I think there's been 700 entries, but the problem, Eddie, is that I don't know if it's a bunch of quality guys. I mean, look at who entered for Oklahoma, and no shade towards them, but it's not
There's
like
a lot of guys looking for other opportunities, and it's probably not going to be at a school like in Oklahoma, for example.
Yeah, like, I mean, all the 5 guys that have entered for Oklahoma aren't exactly guys that I would say are going to be starters at the Power 4 level next year. Maybe at a smaller school they could be, but that's just the reality across college football. And I think Oklahoma, you said it best yesterday in the office, they're being very selective. They're not going to just take anybody. Do they want a tight end that can be a dynamic playmaker? Of course. Are they going to overpay for that in this offense? No. Do they want to add another big-bodied wide receiver? Of course they do. But again, they're not going to pay $500,000 for somebody that, like Xavier Lloyd, who, he had a great year at Illinois State. He was a walk-on at Kansas State. Never got on the field in 3 years at the Power 4 level. Mm-hmm. I just think that they're being very smart. They loved Jaden Ott. They went all in on him. They got him. They feel like he can be a big difference maker. They went all in on Jake Maikkula, who they think could be a starter for him. But some of these other guys at these positions that you feel like they would like to upgrade, I just don't think they've seen anybody enter yet that are like, oh, we have to have this guy. Other than I think Mason Shipley, I do think at kicker, I wouldn't be shocked if Oklahoma says we got to do whatever it takes to get this guy.
And the watch kind of still continues at tight end, correct?
Yes, yeah. They're definitely involved with a few guys. I don't think there's anybody they've totally fallen in love with. Obviously, the Cal tight end, Jake Indres, they love him. He's going to come at a premium. Sure. And, I mean, I'm talking close to 7 figures. Again, Oklahoma, when you look at Ben Arbuckle's offense, and yes, would he like to have a good tight end? Of course, but I don't think it's something that's necessary in this offense. And they also do kind of like some of the guys they have in that room. I don't think they're going to be spending that type of money at that position.
And I just, trying to project what this offense is going to look like. I don't think that you're looking at a situation where that position is going to catch 120 balls next year either.
No, definitely not. And that's kind of what I'm saying is where, they think that Jaden Ott can come in and be a big-time playmaker for him. I don't think they see that at that same position at tight end. And that's just not a Jack Indres thing. That's just all these tight ends. Again, I think they'd like to add somebody that maybe has more potential or a higher ceiling than some of the guys they have currently in the room. But who that is, I don't know. I don't think anybody other than Jack Indres has really entered that they've just totally fallen in love with yet. That could change. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. We will be continuing to follow Mason Shipley and kind of where that's at here over the next 24 hours or until his visit in Norman comes to a close. And we'll see if Oklahoma and Doug Deacon is able to land a kicker who they're hosting today. So that's going to do it. We'll be back on Friday here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel for another edition of Around the Corner, getting all kind of tabulating all of your questions from the Crimson Corner and answering them right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube page. For George, I'm Eddie. We'll see you back here on Friday.